friend. We're exploring this theme of soul warrior, this theme of what are the strengths, what are the gifts, what are the qualities that develop in someone who's gone through a lot of difficulty, someone who's gone through a lot of trauma, perhaps severe trauma, particularly in childhood. And so the quality I want to unpack with you now, explore with you now, dear soul warrior, is the quality of empathy. Now, empathy is an ability to attune to someone else, to feel into someone else, to relate to someone else in their experience, in their emotion, in their feeling. Empathy, it's just this ability to kind of connect on a feeling level. And what I've found is that stronger people who might have gone through a lot of trauma, and yet they've got the strength to look at it, to own it, to carry it, to face it, to bring it to therapy, to work on it, rather than repeat these patterns, endlessly on other people, projecting it out there. People who are strong enough to own it and struggle with it. All that suffering you've been through, it's like experiencing a very broad palette of intense feeling. It's like experiencing absolute depths of fear-based energy in the kind of broad duality, the very difficult, dense, low vibration energies that are available on this planet, which aren't, by the way, on soul state. It's a much higher frequency, but we come into the earth and we have available to us these very difficult dark energies. And so you might be someone who's taken on a tough mission, come into very difficult dark energy, and there's plenty of that still on the planet, hey. Lots of fear, lots of rage, lots of hate, lots of shame, lots of grief. There's a lot of crystallized, dense, condensed dark energy still on this planet, and the planet's in a process of healing this out. We're doing some dramatic shifting on a planetary level at the moment. But you go through that kind of depth of experience and you know terrain that other people don't. You go through abuse, trauma, whatever the challenges, commission trauma, omission trauma, whatever you've been through, you've been there. You've gone down those pathways. You've been through those dark caverns of terror or guilt or rage or grief, sadness, shame, isolation, you name it. All the good stuff, all the heavy stuff, all the really difficult, deep, dark, low vibration stuff. When they measure this, guilt, shame is right down the bottom as the sort of slowest frequency feeling that's available in our experience. So if you've been there, well, you've been there. You've travelled to that country. You've gone into those depths. You know that experience. Nothing's going to take that away. And when there's enough strength in the personality, we're talking the human personality here, when there's the strength in someone to kind of have a capacity to own it, reflect on it, connect to it, what we find is that translates into this beautiful, rich, deep empathy, an ability to tune into others' experience, an ability to emotionally, if you like, feel the equivalent. So everyone's story is different. The details obviously vary enormously, but the frequency, the energetics of it really are the same. There's only so many colours on the palette. Grey is grey, black is grey, dark brown, dark reds, there's only so many colours. And so however you've experienced those colours, well, it gives you this rich capacity to attune to someone else who's in those rich colours or knows those rich colours. That's why so many people who've gone through a lot of trauma become healers, become therapists, become psychologists, become counsellors, because when there's enough maturity there, it does develop a deep empathy. I I grew up one of 4 kids in an interesting household. It got really hairy because my father became a quite serious alcoholic. He had bipolar diagnosed, ended up suiciding when I was 13. And so I went through a lot of trauma. We were terrorised night after night for many years, which is awful. But it's like going through that, as hard as it was, and obviously I've done a lot of work on myself and I've still got some scars to show for it. But I'm proud of how I've been able to catalyse that into this passion, this desire to help others. And I've worked with many, many people over 30 years now. And it's interesting, I've worked with a lot of depressed men over that time. Well, that's not my only focus, but it's interesting, isn't it? It's like turning, what I experienced into helping, into service. And yeah, I've got great satisfaction, great joy really out of being able to help these amazing hundreds and hundreds of people who've gone through unbelievable stuff, far worse than what I went through. But that's the quality of empathy. And you can use that. You will use that. You will use that even in just responding kindly to someone who's pain, noticing someone who might be upset. And you can tune in, you can spot it as soon as you walk into the room, you can feel it. And you might be the one who actually walks up and say, "Oh, how you going?" Or "Can I help?" That's such a beautiful quality, isn't it? Because it turns that capacity, that experience that you've been through of such pain, you're turning it then into service, you're turning it into this process of transmuting that. You're using your experience to make the world a better place, to actually shift that energy to help other people out of dark, stuck places. It's like you've turned your own suffering into service. You've taken your own trauma and turned it into a genuine healing ability. And it doesn't matter what modality you train in. I found myself, training in psychology as the skeleton of it. The flesh of it has been the hypnotherapy, the psychodrama, the other modalities, somatic work, all the other things I've learned and experienced. Journey work, Brandon Bay's stuff, deep hypnotherapy, and of course all the spiritual regression work, life between lives work, all these different things I've explored since I was a teenager. But whatever it is for you, you'll have your own personal interests, and you'll be drawn to it. It might be more body work, it might be more emotional release work, it might be psychology, it might be spiritual healing, whatever you're wired for. But can you see how that rich compassion, that rich empathy that you have doesn't just fall out of the sky? A more mature soul is kind of born with that to a degree, but can you see how a difficult childhood can be really, where that amplifies that and develops that? And to then be able to turn it, and to be the wounded healer, that's fine, we're all wounded in some way, but we keep working on our wounding, and to be the healer, to turn that into service in some way, it's extraordinary. And I don't mind saying I'm sharing lots with you today. I am proud of that, and I'm proud of being a far better parent than my father was. But to catalyse experience into the quality of empathy. Well, I suspect, my dear soul warrior, that you are someone also with a rich, deep compassion and empathy. And if you're still buried under a lot of the residue of your experiences, well, seek help. Find your will, find your strength, find your determination to keep working on it, keep believing in yourself. And this series of videos, if anything, it's to encourage you to find these attributes of soul warrior that are within you. Let's put them to good use.